Hi Passionators, I'm back. I had a weak signal problem, so the first time I tried to do this, it cut me off, kicked me out, but I'm back. And I wanted to talk briefly, I'm not going to keep you long, but I did want to talk about 50 Shades Darker because it is such a popular movie, and a lot of people, even when I speak to them personally, refer to this movie and what they see in it. And a lot of people like it for reasons that I can understand, and I'm not going to go into all the problems that I have with the movie, but there is one overriding problem that I wanted to talk about tonight because in the movie, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it, um, the main character, her name, I don't even remember her first name. I'm sorry. Somebody can refresh me or maybe not. But anyway, the lead character is a is a young girl who's caught up in a relationship with a very rich and powerful man. And they have this more more extreme sexual relationship that keeps them together, and they call it a complicated situation that they have negotiated by contract and terms and things like that. So after the first movie ended, so did their relationship. So this movie picks up with them getting back together again. And this time his demands are more excessive than they were in the first movie. My issue with the way the movie presents the relationship is, well, one of the issues anyway, is that she gives away her power to say no. When she says no, she doesn't stand by it, and he sees her no as an opportunity to talk her out of it. I was talking to a client a few days ago, and she had a similar issue going on. Not that she was involved with this rich, powerful man, but she showed me a few text messages that he had sent to her. And they said things like, they were text messages that came after she ended the relationship. And he was saying things like, remember we were happy together, I'm the one who made you happy, don't forget that. And it was followed by several pictures of them looking happy together. And when I saw those text messages, I said one thing to her in particular. It's like, you want to be aware, you want to beware of anybody who tries to talk you out of your no. Even if they're romantic about it, even if they're funny about it, even if they're nice about it, even when they're not being aggressive about it, or they're not being violent about it, they're not being mean or angry about it. If anybody has a habit of trying to talk you out of your no, they aren't interested in being in a relationship with you. They're trying to be in a relationship with their imagination. They're trying to be in a relationship with what they want the relationship to be, and they want you to act out your part. Like I was saying in a previous video, they have their movie. Please let me know if you can hear me, because hi Virginia, let me know if you can hear me. If not, I can plug in my earbuds and I can do this again if I need to. But I'll just keep going for now, okay? Don't let anybody talk you out of your no. If you say no, mean no. Don't mean talk me out of it. Don't mean convince me that you mean what you're saying to me. Don't say no when you mean I really want to see how badly you want it. Don't do that. When you say no, mean no. And stand by your no. Whether it's in an intimate relationship or any other relationship. You have the right to know. And no is a complete sentence. You can say no and not explain it. I know that's difficult for a lot of people. It really is. It's hard for many people to just say no. Because inevitably, when somebody's trying to control you, they want to know why you said no. Or they see it again as an opportunity to talk you out of it, to change your mind, as if the fact that you said no means that you were wrong to say no. Now, sometimes you may have said no because you're missing information. Understood. You may have said no because you were misinformed. That's also understood. But someone who is trying to talk you out of your no just because they don't want to hear you say no is trying to control you. And it's not about you, because if you were anyone else in the relationship, they'd be doing the same thing. So they're not really trying to be in a relationship with you. They're trying to be in a relationship with their idea of what a relationship is, and they've painted your face on the other half of it. So it's not about you. Because if it were, you would be entitled to your yes, your no, and your anything in between without being challenged on it or without having it turned around. Especially not purposely turned around. And this movie was troubling because throughout the end of the movie, he never learned to accept her no. And he found extravagant ways to get around her no. And she would try to do things to take her autonomy back. I'll point out one scene in particular where there was a young artist who was doing a show at an art gallery. He was displaying some of his pieces. He had several pieces of her being the lead character in this story. So he had like six pieces of just her. And they were photos that had been blown up. And they were really, really beautiful pictures of her. So he was a new artist and he was displaying his work for the first time. There was a big crowd and he was so excited. Shortly after the movie gets started, after she arrives at the exhibit and she sees all these pictures of herself, she's surprised because the artist didn't tell her about that. Well, while they're discussing the fact that he used her pictures, he gets a notice from someone that's working with him to let him know that all of the pictures of her had been sold. All 6 of them. So he finds out about that and he lets her know it. And as soon as she finds out about it, she turns around and there's Christian Grey, the star of the movie. He bought all the pictures of her. One, because he could. But what he said to her was, I don't like other people gawking at you. And that was why he bought all the pictures. And then later on, he gave her the $24,000 that he spent on the pictures. So when she tore the check up, he got on the phone to his assistant and had his assistant wire transfer $24,000 directly into her account. Again, he was refusing to hear her say no. And whenever she did say no, he would ratchet up the intensity to get back to the response that he wanted. So with the $24,000 in her account that she didn't want, and she said she didn't want it, she waited for another opportunity, which revealed itself soon enough at a charity function. And she donated the $24,000 to a charity. And then he finally backed off of the $24,000. But then he ratcheted things up further and took control of her at her job. He went so far as to buy the company that she worked for because he didn't want her traveling with her male boss. When someone is trying to control you, that isn't about love. That it's just not. And just because he made it romantic and because he had the money to do it in such a big, extravagant way doesn't erase the fact that he was seeking ownership and not partnership. And she got sucked into it. She surrendered to it. She bought into the romantic fantasy that love changes neurosis. So, it was, of course, there's this happy-ish ending, and that's what made it even more disturbing, because it reinforced this idea, this whole love conquers toxicity thing. And that if I just hang on long enough, I can love the crazy away. Well, the fact is, she didn't. She didn't love the crazy away. She just stopped trying to work against it at all. She just gave up. And she started giving him what he wanted because she was feeling sorry for him and his abusive past, which was legitimate. I mean, you can't be that close to somebody who has a past like that and not be affected by it. However, it's not your job to heal them from that. That's something that they need to do, and it was something that he continued not to address. He continued to ignore it. And because his immediate circle reinforced that whole idea, because he hid a lot of it from them, it was easy for him to make her the central focus of him returning to sanity and normalcy and all of that. So the movie actually makes it seem like because he fell in love that everything was okay and he would no longer have these issues of control and domination. Never mind, he demonstrated his need for those things several times in the movie. And not just with her, but with another young woman who was one of his submissives before she was. This young woman showed up and she had a gun. He literally disarmed her and then gave her a single command. He walked into the room. She hadn't seen him in 2 or 3 years. And he immediately had control over her mind because of the relationship that they had established previously. And he was able to distract her long enough to get her to look in his eyes. And once she did that, she was completely under his control again. And he said a single word to her, and she followed his command without hesitation. He said one word. That word was kneel. And within seconds, she was on her knees in front of him. And he made this demonstration in front of his girlfriend, who he was also seeking to own. He didn't want partnership. He wanted ownership, and he made no apologies for that. He was very clear about it, that he needed control in order to feel safe, secure, whatever. So, as strongly as I possibly can, I want to encourage you to not let anyone talk you out of your no. If you meant your no when you said it, then stand by it. Stand by it. Whatever it takes to stand by it, stand by it. Because you're entitled to it. That's one of the few things you actually are entitled to. You're entitled to say what happens to you. You're entitled to say what you're willing to be involved in and what you're not. So stand by your no. When you say no, make sure no is what you mean. Don't send any mixed signals. Don't test anybody. Don't play any games. Just say no and mean it. And you don't have to explain it. Stop wasting all that time and airspace trying to explain why you said no to somebody, because you don't owe them that. You don't owe anybody any explanation for why you said no about anything. So just don't do it. Don't get caught up in that. And it's really easy for us to get caught up in that because we've been conditioned that it's not nice to say no. And so we're conditioned to be nice above all things. So that's the only thing I wanted to discuss tonight. And maybe later, if there's something else that you guys want to talk about, you can let me know. But yeah, keep your no. Stand by it. Otherwise, it's going to be meaningless later on. When you really want somebody to respect your no, they won't, because you've already conditioned them to believe that when you say no, what you really mean is talk me out of it. So don't start that dynamic, and then you won't be caught months or years later trying to reverse it. Okay? I'm Eden Adele. You can visit my website at edenadele.com to get more information, or to send me an email and let me know what you're interested in. But for now, good night, and thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.